to be teaching you how to do a lift transfer from a bed to wheelchair and wheelchair to bed. So first to go over, this is the sling component, and over here we have our lift. In order to start the transfer, make sure that you have your loved one on a smooth, clean surface, a clear path from the surface to the chair, and enough space to maneuver the lift. You're going to want to make sure that the wheelchair is already in a locked position, and make sure that the armrests are out of the way. So to start the transfer, you need to place the sling underneath your loved one. In order to do that, you're going to roll the sling so that it can be easily slid underneath the patient. Roll your patient or loved one to the side, however suits them best. I often need to bend one knee and have them assist to roll to their side with their arm. Take the pre-rolled sling, slide it underneath their trunk, and try and get it as far beneath their back as you can. Once it's placed, you can roll them back onto their back and have them roll onto their other side. As you can see, the sling has been placed for you, so you can unfurl it, have them roll back onto their back again, and it should be in a proper position for them. Now, it's in a proper position behind their back. You need to take the leg parts and slide it one under each thigh. Once positioned here, take the loops at the thigh and crisscross them once through each other and place them on their lower extremities. Now bring the lift over the bed with the legs in a closed position. In order to make sure the legs are in a closed position, there is a lever on the back that swings to open and shut them. So in this closed position, I'm going to bring the lift so it's right over my patient, and I can make sure that it's right over the patient by also raising and lowering the lift itself. This lever here will raise my arm, and there's a small lever on this side that allows, with hydraulics and a little overpressure, to lower it down. I'm going to make sure that it's in a locked position so that it doesn't slide down accidentally as I'm trying to perform a transfer. So placing the sling onto the lift itself, you have an option of two different lengths. Select one length and be even on both sides. I'm going to use the longer one here and the longer one on this side. Place it on the hook closest to your loved one's head, and place the long end on the same close hook on the other side. From here, you're going to take your still crossed leg pieces, and I'm going to make sure I use, out of the three options, the same one on both sides. The longest on this, or whichever you so choose, and the longest on this side as well. At this point, she's secure in, we check to make sure everything is okay, and we're ready to start our lift off. I'm going to make sure the lift itself is locked with the pedals underneath, and begin to use this pump to lift my patient. As she lifts, I'm going to be watching to be sure everything looks like it's in a correct and safe position. Once she's cleared the bed, I'm going to turn her to face me and straddle her legs around this part of the lift. I'm going to unlock the lift and begin to slowly swivel around from under the bed and back up towards the chair. At this point, I need to open the legs of the lift wider so that they fit around the base of the chair. Back up towards the chair. You might want to lock the lift again. Come around to the side of your loved one. Use your hands to guide them safely into the chair as you release the hydraulics. And make sure that they don't get bumped in the nose. At this point, you may need to readjust to take the sling off of your patient. First, remove each of the handles from the hooks. Roll away from the patient and secure the lift out of the way for the moment. You might want to bring the armrest down for increased security as you remove the sling from underneath your loved one. First, remove the legs from underneath. Have them lean forward into you. And pull the sling from behind your patient. Now they've been placed.
So you've just seen how to transfer a patient from bed to wheelchair, and now I'm going to teach you how to transfer a patient from wheelchair to bed. So take your sling, and you want to place the sling behind the patient's head. Have them lean forward as much as you can, but assist if needed. You want the back portion to be snug down the patient's lower back, as far down as you can place it. And the leg portions will wrap around the patient's side. Locking the patient at the knees so that they do not slide forward. Lift the patient's leg and place the leg portion of the strap underneath the patient's thigh. Do the same on the other side. Next, take the leg loops and loop one through the other so that they are crisscrossed. This is important because if you miss this step, your patient will fall through the sling and onto the floor. Get your lift. And approach the wheelchair. Use the lever to widen the legs of the lift so that it fits around the wheelchair. And if needed, crank the lift to make it higher so that you don't hit your patient. Lock the lift. take the loops of the sling and place them onto the hooks of the cradle. You want to make sure you're taking the same length loop on both sides. So I'm taking the longest of the two and placing it on the hook closest to the patient's head. Do the same with the leg loops, so you can see there's different, 3 different loop options. I'm going to take the longest loop and hook them onto the hook of the cradle that's closest to the patient's legs. Make sure the patient's seatbelt is not strapped. Get anything like a armrest or lateral out of the way. Unlock your lift. Ensure that the wheelchair is locked. And position the small lever of the hydraulic into the position where the pump can crank up and lift the patient. Ensure that the patient's arms are within the sling. And you want to lift the patient high enough so they will clear both the surface of the wheelchair and the surface that you are moving to, in this case, the bed. Alright. Pull the lift away from the chair and use the lever to close the legs of the lift so that you may maneuver the space. Position the lift so the patient is over the bed. And lock the lift. Swivel the patient around so they're no longer straddling the lift and their legs at the foot of the surface. Grab hold of the sling so that you can help control the lift as it lowers. And slowly release the hydraulics so the patient is lowered to the bed. From here, adjust the patient's legs if needed. And unhook each loop of the sling from the cradle. Unlock the lift and ensure the cradle does not hit the patient as you remove the lift from the area. To remove the sling from behind the patient's back, you're going to repeat the steps that you used to place the sling behind the patient's back, except go in reverse. So uncross the leg portions, remove the leg portions of the sling from underneath the patient's thighs, roll the patient over to one side, and roll the sling towards the patient's back. Bring the patient back to midline and roll the other way. You can see here the sling can easily be pulled from the patient's back and removed from the area. Bring the patient back to midline. And you've successfully transferred the patient from wheelchair to bed.